Mr. Higgins, thanks so much for coming down to Has-Beens here today.
It's my pleasure. It's a gorgeous day, Charles. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. Just let the folks know at home and on the internet, why are you running for a Humboldt County Supervisor for the Northern Humboldt District? What do you feel your accomplishments are that have helped lead you to this point to get things done for the voters?
Well, I've been in Humboldt County for almost 40 years. I've been in business for 30. And I'm currently the Humboldt Bay Harbor District Commissioner from the 5th Division, which is the equivalent of the 5th District. And in that capacity, I've helped to trim the budget at the Harbor District. And I wasn't satisfied with just that measure, so I pulled together an economic development committee. And I've helped to define a new direction in terms of bay commerce, which I think will both create jobs and also to help the Harbor District balance its books. So I think that's an accomplishment that shows I have the capacity for governance. And the Harbor District is, been very subject to political focus and controversy, and yet I've been able to navigate those treacherous waters and I think help move the Harbor District forward to a more viable future. I'm very concerned about the economy in the state and the nation. And so one of the reasons that I'm running for office is because I think we're in for hard times overall, and my Safety Net for Humboldt campaign actually will help us to, I think, be somewhat insulated from the national and state downturn. And I think that's important because we have to keep people from becoming desperate in challenging times, and that way we're all able to flourish, help one another out, and then when the economy comes back up, it'll be even sweeter.
And what would you say your vision is for economic development, getting people employed here in Humboldt County?
Well, my vision and ideas actually are much different than those of my challengers. And I'm going to get a large chai latte here if you don't mind. Quit drinking coffee, simplify and de-amplify in the hopes that I can unify. And so I favor natural capital, where we can restore the environment at the same time we create jobs. And I think that's really the future of Humboldt County. Our environment is not very despoiled at present relative to other areas, the state and the nation. And yet it has deteriorated since I moved here in 1972. So I would like to see us thin from below on national forests and private timberlands. When I was a kid, big trees spaced far apart. Now there's small trees very close together. And if you think about the cycles of the forest, in nature there might be floods and fire, but it never was completely denuded and then growing back in tiny trees and then getting bugs and then growing again and then burning up. So I think we need to restore those natural cycles, and then we can do so by actually thinning from below, and that relies on subsidy, not really subsidy, just a mandate from the Public Utilities Commission to Pacific Gas and Electric that they pay 18 cents a kilowatt hour, whether that's to the Fairhaven facility that produces 20 or 30% of our electricity currently, Alta Power in Blue Lake, which I hope actually runs more smoothly. It's had some pollution problems on its startup. But also we're thinking about maybe trying to get a biomass production plant in Willow Creek and in Orleans. Or actually Willow Creek, they could be fed from Hoopa and Orleans. So that's an idea that if we all get behind it, we could produce 75 or maybe even 100% of our electricity, and at the same time create 2 generations of rural workers' jobs.
Well, for folks who do depend on public transit to get around, especially long distances, and especially folks who are elderly, disabled, and so forth, do you think the public transit as it's offered now is sufficient, especially getting out to some of those more rural areas? Would you like to see the county spend more of the budget that currently goes to road repair go towards, say, establishing Sunday bus service, getting the schedule a bit more nailed down so workers can actually depend on it to get to and from work?
Well, you've got a lot of information in that question. I believe that we must maintain the current system of public transit, at least at the current level, because it's a lifeline in difficult times, and it's also very energy efficient. And I've ridden the bus in Humboldt County, and it's very folksy. The driver knew people's names. I mean, the people who ride the bus are regulars. I think it's great that the students have subsidy to ride the bus, and that HSU helps with our public transit costs as a result. I know that it's very important that we maintain service in rural areas like Willow Creek, because you know that's a lifeline. And we do have a problem with the extent of expenditures on our rural road systems. Partly that's because of the way that Caltrans is funded, and partially that's because we have extremely extensive networks. I would like to see us shift Caltrans's budget. You know, we don't want freeways. We don't want the cloverleaf between Eureka and Arcata. Get a couple of more cops, enforce the speed limit, and let people slow down and look at the bay. I don't think that there's, ironically, I think it's favored by maybe some in Eureka and in Fortuna, but us in the North County, I don't think we're for the cloverleaf and $35 million project between Eureka and Arcata. And how about if we instead had a budget for healthy rural roads? Some of the most beautiful roads in the country are the back roads of Humboldt County, but they're very, very precarious and often in a state of ill repair. So how can you direct a tourist to drive out to Petroleum when there's some rolling dips out there where you're not sure whether or not you're falling off the end of the earth before you go over some of these slumps? And certainly you wouldn't want to send anybody out there in one of the larger recreational vehicles.
You mentioned getting some of those displaced timber workers back to work with rural power generation facilities. Of course, that Headwaters Fund was originally established to try to get some of those displaced timber workers back to some sort of living wage, sustainable employment. Do you feel the Headwaters Fund Board, which of course has been administered by one of your opponents, has been really properly and dutifully administered, spending money on getting direct plane flights to Salt Lake City, or funding that botanical facility that hasn't actually been constructed yet, projects like that? What would you like to see done differently with the Headwaters Fund?
Well, I think in the main, the Headwaters Fund Board are people of goodwill. They try hard. They've done some good things. But you brought up the Delta Airlines idea, and I didn't favor that. I didn't see it as viable. I think if the route were viable, then the company would actually be pursuing it. And so $500,000 is a large amount of capital. I don't know if any benefits were derived from that service. I'm sure some people went skiing in Salt Lake City that wouldn't have otherwise, but I'm not sure how it worked out for Humboldt. The chief problem that I have with a project funded by the Headwaters is kind of firsthand from the Harbor District, where when I came on, there was a feasibility study being conducted for the Redwood Dock. And that feasibility study showed no tangible clients, and therefore no viability, and so therefore no feasibility for a large-scale shipping facility with goods from Asia articulated with a railroad. Previous studies that had been conducted had also found that without the railroad, that such a venture would not flourish, and we know how challenging transit is in and out of the county on our highway system. So it would be highly undesirable to try to carry that out. And so that was $100,000 that was committed before I was elevated to office. And I pointed out, and people can go to my website, www.pathiggins.org, and see the paper trail, because anytime I feel that government needs to have a change in the way it's conducted, I will write memos or comments and submit them to my colleagues as well as to the press, so that the public can be fully informed, and in the hope that more enlightened decisions will be made. And so I basically went on record saying there was no feasibility. There was $100,000 pending from the Headwaters Fund, and that was for a business plan. Well, what is the point of doing a business plan for a venture that hasn't shown feasibility?